Mama's back home. Oh god, that was so weak. I don't have beer today. I've been trying to get more involved in online anime and nerd communities, which is nice, but they don't understand that very soon they will not be seeing me on Sundays. That's because I got 7 hours of commercial-free football to watch. Hi there, I'm Haruka, and this is not an official ad for NFL Red Zone, although my dad does call it the greatest invention in the history of television. Let's ignore how I haven't been posting and just focus on me right now. I haven't seen my face in a while. You know what? I'm still adorable. There's a new NFL season approaching, and it's time to talk about it. Here is my yearly season preview. Somehow still yearly, instead of MLS, which is the sport I write about. I'm giving myself 30 seconds again to preview each team in descending order based on last season's divisional standings. So let's get started, shall we? The NFC East? The Dallas Cowboys. It's a good thing I'm writing and filming this so late because CeeDee Lamb has officially signed on for this season. I personally believe that this is one of the most talented defenses in the league. The biggest issue I see is that I still don't think Dak Prescott is elite. He is this generation's Joe Flacco, except he doesn't even have a ring. Amazing receivers, great defense, nothing else. Genuinely not even a run game. Do they think Zeke is going to magically return to form, or maybe they're just going to sign Dalvin Cook to combine for the most disappointing retirement backfield? I think they will have a chance at the playoffs, but they won't do anything when they get there. The Philadelphia Eagles. Wow, the Eagles fell off in the middle of last season. They were on a mission to get back to the Super Bowl until December, where they promptly face-planted into losing 6 of their last 7 games. And they were losing to absolute garbage teams like the Seahawks, Cards, and Giants. They're still an incredibly talented team. I just don't know what happened to them. This offseason, they've made some offensive adjustments, replacing DeAndre Swift with Saquon Barkley, and beefing up their receiving core with Devontae Parker and Jahan Dotson. Wait, Parker retired literally 2 months after signing? Man, I think the Eagles might be cursed, but I don't know by who. They did draft Cooper DeJean, which is nice, and they got Kenny Pickett, who probably won't play. The New York Giants. I don't really know what the Giants are doing anymore. They're coming off of a season where everyone agreed that they didn't have any good quarterbacks, and in a quarterback-heavy draft, they came out with another wide receiver. Their quarterback room is still Daniel Jones, the Italian version of Linsanity Tommy DeVito, and Mr. You Forgot He Existed, Drew Lock. Not to mention Saquon Barkley is done with this team, and now their rushing talent is just Devin Singletary. Their defense is honestly pretty still okay, but not good enough to make up for the mess on the offensive side of the ball. And they might fall off further, losing standout safety Xavier McKinney in free agency. The Washington Commanders. The Commies have got to have the most shit-looking QBs. Sure, the Bears have been bad, we'll get to them, but the Commies are still able to get generational talent and then destroy them. I mean, here's hoping that doesn't happen to Jaden Daniels, although Sam Hartman is there as well, and Trace McSorley looks hungry. Overall, their offense has taken a massive step backwards in a lot of other ways anyway. Jahan Dotson's gone. They picked up a washed-up Austin Eckler, although their last-place defense last season has gotten a bit better with the addition of a washed-up Bobby Wagner and Jajon Newton, a rookie defensive tackle out of Illinois. When was the last time anything good came out of Urbana-Champaign? All I got is Rashad Mendenhall in 2007, a seminal Midwest emo album in 1999. Yes, I did go over it. That joke needs to stay in. The NFC North, the Detroit Lions. I don't think anyone could have seen it coming, but I genuinely think the Detroit Lions play football the right way, and I'm just so happy to see it. Dan Campbell is an aggressive gambler of a play caller, but that just makes every moment they're out there fun as hell. They didn't really lose any major players in the offseason. They added a couple of major defensive players to really clean up their line, and with not losing anyone on their offense, they're going to probably continue being the second best offense in the NFC. Some may say Campbell's aggressive play calling is something that will hold them back, but I applaud anyone embracing the inherent chaos of sports. The Green Bay Packers. There are a lot of people out here trying to crown Jordan Love as the third elite quarterback in this long run for the Packers, but I still think he's just a normal quarterback, and their offense was a fairly normal offense in my eyes, nothing too special, but it should be a bit better this season where they're swapping out the oft-injured Aaron Jones with the oft-injured Josh Jacobs, but I think he's a better player than Jones at least. Their defense isn't that special either, but it's not something that'll be a detriment, though they did add Xavier McKinney from the Giants, so that's helpful for their secondary. The Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are actually cursed this season. Their first-round quarterback pick is having surgery on a season-ending knee injury. Their elite tight end picked up his own season-ending injury, and their third-round draft pick literally died in a car accident. None of this is anyone's fault, but this whole season is going to be an uphill battle. There's even questions about Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison's health. They still have some solid pieces to work with for the future. Love that they were able to get Dallas Turner in the draft, but maybe come back next year and we'll figure it out then? The Chicago Bears. I miss Justin Fields, and he deserved a fair chance, but I guess Caleb Williams plays quarterback how I played Madden, so I'll take it. And you add some real weapons in Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze to go next to DJ Moore and a finally alive Cole Kmet, plus DeAndre Swift taking the star role at running back with Khalil Herbert. I don't know enough about the offensive linemen that were brought in, but they can't be much worse than what Fields had. And while I'm skeptical of their defense, Montez Sweat was a great addition, and as a whole, the Bears' rush defense was probably the best in the league, and their secondary wasn't even the bad part. Most interceptions last season. They could either be surprisingly good for them or completely average. The NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know, everyone thought that the Brady hangover was going to hit the Bucs a lot harder, but Baker Mayfield really did take over when they needed him most, which should be expected. He should be leading teams into playoffs, but really it's just because of how dysfunctional the rest of this division is. They're continuing to lean on some aging defensive stars as well as Mike Evans starting to show some age at wide receiver, and as far as I can tell, they haven't really reinforced those areas this season. So unfortunate for Baker, but I think they might fall off this year. The New Orleans Saints. You'd think that when I say last season's division leader is going to fall off, I've got confidence in the number 2 team. I do not. Derek Carr is a menace to society. Almost every year one of his receivers goes crazy, and he has to have something to do with it. And generally, they're technically in the top 10 for both offense and defense in terms of points last season, but they still greatly underperformed expectations against a pretty weak schedule. I don't think they're going to get worse, but I don't think they're going to be better either. They did draft Kool-Aid McKinstry, which is fun. Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is the team that has all the potential to jump right back into the top of this division. Yes, Kirk Cousins is a herb, but he's walking right into a Falcons offense that looks almost exactly the same as the offense he left in Minnesota, which is to say a young group with so much potential. And without Arthur Smith's weird play calling and player choices, Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson will finally get to show their potentials are real. And while their defense isn't much to write home about, I think that a vast improvement on offense and the addition of a quarterback who can be clutch when necessary is going to help out a lot. Carolina Panthers. Those poor unfortunate souls. They actually had a top 5 defense in yards, but I think that's more due to how much further forward on the field that their opponents started their drives, because they still had the 3rd worst points allowed. Bryce Young is not the man that they wanted him to be, and they gave up what would have been a draft pick to get a better quarterback this season. Young isn't bad, but he also has no options, and Xavier Legette isn't much of an extra option when you need more than one receiver and already lost DJ Chark. The rebuild is going to be long and hard, and I don't see them turning anything around this season. The NFC West. San Francisco 49ers. I still don't like Brock Purdy, but I guess he's sticking around now. I do like the 49ers defense though, except Nick Bosa, who's a racist. This is probably the most complete team in the entire NFL. Other teams may have better players at various positions, but this is a team that is just sort of great all around. Christian McCaffrey has effectively gotten himself into the Hall of Fame with the numbers and records he's put up on this team, and really it's that overall talent that's still there, and the fact that their defense keeps getting better, that they're probably going to be back to another Super Bowl appearance unless the Lions can stop them. The Los Angeles Rams. I don't know how they did it, but the Rams went 3-6 going into their bye week and came out swinging, only losing a single game in overtime the rest of the season to make the playoffs. They went a lot of the season without Cooper Kupp, but they somehow found future winner of most random NFL player named Puka Nacua, who exploded for almost 1,500 yards on 105 catches. But they can't keep getting away with this. The fallout is coming. Kupp and Stafford are both getting older, and the defense has seen some major losses, especially with Aaron Donald's retirement. I think another team in the division is caught up, and there won't be enough space for them anymore, even the wild card. The Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are not the team that's catching up. Geno Smith is still somehow dragging this team forward, and at this point I feel bad for him. I also feel bad for DK Metcalf. It's not like he's that old, but there's something very off about him, and anyone playing fantasy should probably not be using him at this point. The Legion of Boom has been dead for a long time, a fact that's made even more clear thanks to one of the worst defenses in the league last season. I don't really see any attempt to remedy that problem. With Pete Carroll finally stepping aside, I think it's going to take a while before they build themselves back up. The Arizona Cardinals. Last year the Cards had the season that I'm expecting out of the Vikings this year, which means that this is their chance to bounce back. Kyler Murray isn't bad, he just didn't have many decent options. Having a good tight end is important, but when he's your top receiver, that's a problem for the whole offense. So with a complete receiving refresh of Murray's got Marvin Harrison Jr. as well as Zay Jones running around out there, in addition to the only man in the NFL with 2 mothers, Trey McBride. The defense is still definitely a problem, but they've basically built a completely new defensive line with key additions to the secondary and at linebacker. Not sure about playoffs, but they're definitely better than Seahawks. The AFC East. The Buffalo Bills. Wide right. Bills fans thought they'd finally shaken out that ghost, but there it is again. And while right after that game, I thought they'd be able to run it back, the team went out and dumped most of their roster. Most importantly, the receiving core has been gutted, which is a very stupid thing to do to one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It worked for Mahomes, but we'll get back to that later. I like Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Keon Coleman looks like a really chill dude, but do you think Chase Claypool is going to help you? Demir Bird? Neither of those two are even playing in this season. You're going to see a lot of Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox this season. They also gutted the defense, but whatever, I'm scared. The Miami Dolphins. The Fins scored 70 points in a single game last season. This is the most explosive offense in the league, unfortunately led by an abuser at wide receiver. Really, the thing that keeps this team from making a deep playoffs run wasn't just that their game was against the Chiefs that kicked off 4 degrees below Fahrenheit with massive amounts of snow, but defense suffered some massive injuries towards the end of the season. Jalen Phillips and Ramsey did not play a full season, and there are 2 massive contributors. Bradley Chubb is going to start the season while on the PUP list. It's a good team, definitely the best in the division right now, but I foresee them continuing to struggle unless they can get going all at the end of the season. The New York Jets. I feel like I should just hold for laugh on this one. Aaron Rodgers' season was shorter than the eclipse that went over US early in the year. And this season, despite not getting another starting level quarterback after Rodgers insisted that he would have been ready if they made the playoffs, he hasn't taken a single preseason snap and came to camp late. I mean, I don't expect him to break himself again, but there's a good chance that Rodgers' post-Packers Jets era is going to look a whole more lot like Favre's post-Packers Jets era. Good news for the Vikings, bad news for the Jets fans who finally have a solid roster. That defense is so great, like pound for pound the best defense. Their secondary is unmatched. And Tyrod Taylor's weapons are pretty nice. The New England Patriots. Well, the forces of evil have finally left New England. Wait, shit, Bob Kraft is still there. Look, this is the first season in many Patriots fans' lives that the coach isn't Brian Belichick, and Jared Mayo is a very interesting choice. And while it's an interesting choice, I'm not putting any bets on him pulling this organization out of the hole that they've been dug into. However, my one friend who is a Pats fan has said that he really wanted Drake May, so they got him, for better or worse. I still think he's just like a BYU quarterback. The AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have to be one of the most confusing teams in the NFL. They have one of the best rushing attacks despite not having a clear number one for all of last season after an injury to J.K. Dobbins. They have one of the most efficient passing offenses despite having the least attempts. And you combine that into their conference championship game where they decided to stop running the ball and instead inefficiently threw errant passes all night. I still really like this team. They dropped Dobbins and Gus Edwards to pick up Derrick Henry, who is an absolute freight train still. And they got a couple more potential receiving options. Most of their focus this offseason has been maintaining their top 5 defense. The Cleveland Browns. I spent 2 years glossing over them because of their quarterback, but I do find it hilarious that 38-year-old Joe Flacco played better in less games than the rapists they're paying hundreds of millions of dollars. And our only possible reprieve from Deshaun Watson is a different alleged abuser, although the evidence is a bit more complicated. But still, 2 guys who've absolutely sucked since being called out as abusers. You're not going to just go with the random dude who saved your season. The reason this still annoys me so much is because there's so much more about this team that I really like. Their defense has really been rebuilt from the ground up ever since their winless seasons. Myles Garrett just seems like such a nice dude still. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Speaking of quarterbacks that I don't want to see playing, but for a completely different reason, I'm willing to bet that Russell Wilson is going to get 2 games before Justin Fields overtakes him. At least by week 5, Fields will be running things over there. Still a dominant defense, Najee Harris is finally fitting in, and they finally dumped their trash offensive coordinator only to be saddled with Arthur Smith. Well, it's not like the team has any major offensive players for him to ignore this time. The Cincinnati Bengals. Despite finishing last in the division, the Bengals did have a winning record, although even the games with Jake Browning were still about the same as the ones with Joe Burrow starting. I really don't know. Burrow just didn't seem right this past season. They struggled to keep most of their offense together this offseason, swapping out Joe Mixon for Zach Moss and Irv Smith Jr. for Mike Gesicki. So honestly, this upcoming season seems like a big unknown given how the rest of this division looks. It's going to be the same dogfight, but I'm not sure if they'll even have the juice to get out of it this season. The AFC South. The Houston Texans. Just want to say I called it. CJ Stroud absolutely balled out in his first season and even got them hot just at the right time later in the season to get a playoff win. So once again, everyone in Houston should actually be thanking Lovie Smith for getting them that one win. But the more unexpected explosion was wide receivers Tank Dell and Nico Collins making immediate impacts on this team. The Texans have gone from an afterthought to immediate impact players in the AFC playoff picture, especially now that they've added Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs to this already loaded offense. And with a defense that didn't need much help fixing up going into this season, getting some more help, Texans might just be back to their Matt Schaub era with a real quarterback this time. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Another team that had some mid-season switch, except instead of getting better, they completely turned off after their bye week last season, and I've got nothing on why it happened. They went from 8-3 to out of the playoffs. I can probably figure out if I did a deep dive, but that's not what this channel is about. Their main focus in the offseason was more weapons for Trevor Lawrence to work with. Gabe Davis and Devin Duvernay aren't exactly the best options, but whatever. And the acquisition of Mac Jones is ominous. The way I see it, I think the second half Jags are more likely to be the real Jags, which means that this might be another rough season. The Indianapolis Colts. Despite his passer rating being garbage and not really doing anything too impressive last season, I still liked Anthony Richardson, and I think a full season of him is going to do a whole lot more for the Colts than people may think. And if he doesn't work out, that's where Joe Flacco comes in. The Colts defense was technically among the worst last season, but again, I feel like they've made a couple of important small changes. Giving DeForest Buckner another solid lineman next to him like Leatu Latu is going to do a lot for them. Although at the end of the day, there's only so much that small things can change, and I'm not sure if I see them improving enough to make the playoffs. The Tennessee Titans. The Titans officially fell off last season, and it finally worked Derrick Henry to his last breath, as evidenced by his exit. Turns out none of their quarterbacks were any good, with Will Levis, Ryan Tannehill both sucking out loud, Malik Willis showing exactly why no one wanted to draft him. So this season, they go outside of the organization for the much improved option of Mason Rudolph. The Steelers' forever backup who couldn't beat Trubisky or pick for the top spot, so I guess that means Levis is starting. DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley are trapped in hell. Everyone's jumping ship. This doesn't look good for anyone. At least you might get Shadur Sanders. The AFC West. Kansas City Chiefs. I think I might take a bit extra time on this because I'm very angry about this. They can't keep getting away with this. No, you shut up. I don't give a shit about people being sexist about Taylor Swift. The Chiefs literally didn't have any real wide receivers last season, and they still won the Super Bowl. Their top receiver was Kelsey, who had one of the worst statistical seasons of his career. And their number 2 hospitalized 2 people in a car crash, and he's not suspended. This is a team that is getting shadow carried by its defense. No one's figured it out at this point because their 2 stars are literally celebrities at this point. And their 2 stars are on the offensive side of the ball, not their defense, who is carrying this team. Even their kicker wants in on it by somehow claiming to be Catholic while actively preaching things against Catholicism. Yes, surprisingly, sexism in the manner that he did it is frowned upon by the church. Look, I don't know how they keep doing it. All I know is that the rest of this division is too dysfunctional to stop them from making the playoffs, and once they get there, you can't touch Mahomes. The Las Vegas Raiders. Josh McDaniels is one of the biggest frauds in all of football. Antonio Pierce seems like the sort of guy his team can rally around. So when you combine that with the talent that they already have on the roster, you can expect good things, right? Devontae Adams, Brock Bowers, that whole defense. The one thing they forgot to do was get a good quarterback. I don't know how people keep falling for Gardner Minshew like he's the next Nick Foles. A great backup there when you need him. Not your starter. Neither is Aiden O'Connell, to be honest. Who is your running back supposed to be? Alexander Madison? Pierce is a solid dude, and the defense is a massive bright spot for the team, but I just don't see the vision here. The Denver Broncos. The Russell Wilson era in Broncos country is over. Now it's time for either Bo Nix or Zach Wilson. May Haruka have mercy on their souls. I'm not that against Bo Nix, but he certainly Drew Lock 2.0 for them. Along with the gutting of their receiving core, their offensive production just went way down, and their already bad defense was pretty much ignored in the offseason. There's just one big overall yikes from me. Los Angeles Chargers. This is your real AFC West dark horse because Jim Harbaugh has returned to California to a team that already has a generational quarterback. All he needed to do was find Justin Herbert some targets and they'll put up numbers, and instead he stole 2 running backs from his brother's Ravens team, and I guess DJ Chark is okay, but where's the rest of it? The fire sale they were having earlier in the offseason may have caught up to them, but maybe they'll be more improved next season once they get in some actual receivers instead of... They still have Quentin Johnston? Oh, Herbert's screwed. And now for my random predictions. MVP is going to be Christian McCaffrey. He's been doing so much so often, and I think that with the continued domination of the 49ers, he'll take it home with a whole lot more interesting stats to his name than Purdy. Rookie of the year is going to be offensive rookie Caleb Williams. I don't think there's any other rookie so perfectly set up for success than Caleb. He's got an amazing arsenal of targets, couple of threatening running backs that could sell that play action. Just gotta not break when adversity hits. Defensive rookie Kool-Aid McKinstry. While this sounds like a meme pick because, you know, his name is Kool-Aid, I genuinely think that this guy has the potential to have a great season for a team that is going to see a lot of other teams trying their best to air it out despite having trash quarterbacks. As for the Super Bowl, I don't want to say the 49ers and the Chiefs, but like that's what all the numbers say. Like that's what makes sense. I hate it. So instead of that, I'll say the Super Bowl that I want to see is the Detroit Lions against the Houston Texans, because that would be so much fun to watch, and watching them get there too would be so much fun. Love that so much. We're never going to get anything that we want. And that's it. That's my preview for this coming NFL season. Just barely made this video in time. I'm recording in the middle of a thunderstorm. You may have heard it. And also, I missed a day of what I was going to be writing this because I was really hungover. Like, comment, and subscribe to enter in for a chance to win another Haruka video in 10 to 14 months or whenever Aaron Rodgers inevitably retires this season. Whichever comes first. Thank you. Amie, what you wanna do? I think I could stay with you for a while, maybe longer if I do. Normally I have to wait for trains, now I have to wait for thunder.